What is up, guys? Shai is here, the hero that we don't deserve, but we all cherish and want to root on. Shai is pretty much like if you took My Hero Academia, you took Deku out of it, and you stuck a cute girl in it, and she has a lot of self-confident issues, and you want to root her on, and then you kind of throw in a bunch of Survivor's Remorse in there as well. Pretty much a modern-day superhero-type show that just kind of twist things in a little way to the more dramatic side of things, getting into a lot of psychological conflicts that characters may have. But yes, I've got done with the first 2 episodes, and it's time to start kind of diving into my thoughts on the series so far, which, honestly, I'm a little mixed. But yeah, essentially, Shai opens up with this girl named Teru, who is Shai. Yes, as the title would lead you to believe. And her title would lead you to believe, yes, she is Shai. We get this whole opening segment where she goes to this amusement park to do this opening for somebody, and yeah, she's completely shy, and she's struggling to even get words out. But yes, in this world, war has ended, and every single country has the appearance of what they call the heroes, which are people with supernatural abilities that can protect people and save people. So it's a world of peace, but every country has a hero that saves people in case something happens. And yes, Shai is the hero for Japan. But she's very young. She's like in her early teens, and she's got the responsibility kind of thrown upon her. During this whole bit in the amusement park, eventually this roller coaster messes up. She goes to save everybody. There's this one girl that's like, look, save everybody else. Get me last. I'll be fine. And then she ends up getting injured. Shai barely is able to save her, but she ends up hurting her leg and getting a bump on the head. Shai gets criticized a lot by the media and stuff. They all claim that she should take responsibility. She should be held responsible for the injury of this girl because she didn't save everybody, which sort of leads to Teru having issues with even activating her powers because she's got this fear of not being able to save everybody. She kind of goes on hiatus, ends up becoming pretty much like a NEET. One of the other heroes drops by to try to give her a little pep talk. He uses this reference of, wanting to go around the world and get everybody drunk, but then realizing that once you're on the other side of the world, everybody sobers up over here. This idea that heroes can't save everybody, and that's something that, unfortunately, Teru has to come to grips with. But thankfully, later on, when she kind of has this encounter with this one boy that she saved earlier, she kind of gets that courage kind of thrown back in her. This idea that anybody can be a hero, just jump in there and take action. She almost jumps in there without even her powers activated because she couldn't activate them, but she ends up kind of reawakening them. And the first episode kind of ends in the idea that this other superhero, Pepesha, ends up taking Shai to this base that they have up in space where she meets the Unilord. And the Unilord basically explains to her that, yes, there's peace upon this world, but everybody still has darkness within their hearts. And there is a group that doesn't seek light, that seeks to find that darkness and exploit it and use it for their own means. And it's the duty of the heroes to be basically beacons of light for everybody. Keep hope in everybody's hearts so that they can pretty much combat that. And at the very end of the episode, yes, we have the appearance of the girl that she wasn't able to save, just so happens to start coming to her school. The explanation is that she got injured and she can't commute to her other school, so they transferred her to that school, and yes, somehow she ends up in the same class as Teru or Shai. That kind of turns into the second episode, which pretty much has like 2 facets to it. One side of it is the idea that, yes, Teru is, a little traumatized by the fact that this girl that she wasn't able to save is now sitting right next to her. She sees the injuries firsthand and everything, and how it's affecting this girl's life because she wasn't able to save her 100%. But additionally, on the other side, you're seeing how this girl, Koishikawa, is struggling with this difficulty inside of her, and eventually is confronted by this unknown person that exploits her. Finds that darkness trapped within her heart, which is pretty much what we were talking about with the Unilord. This idea that this guy is exploiting the darkness that's in Koishikawa's heart and trying to bring it out as a manifestation, so it kind of corrupts her and turns her evil in a sense. But yes, prior to this, Teru ends up seeing Koishikawa, and she's hurting, and she takes her to the nurse's office. Have this little short conversation where Teru is asking Koishikawa, do you hate Shai? I mean, the news says that, you should hate Shai because she wasn't able to save you completely, and Koishikawa's like, no. You can't hate somebody that's going out of their way and working so hard to help other people. Well, yes, as Teru steps away for a second, she comes back to find that Koishikawa has just met this boy, and he has unlocked all this darkness out of her, and it's changing her and mutating her in some way. Well, Teru ends up having to reveal her identity, turn into Shai, and try to stop her, and try to figure out how can she stop this corruption from spreading in her body. Her little mascot thing then ends up analyzing her and finding out it's this ring that this boy put on her that's kind of opening up this darkness in her heart. And it kind of turns this whole thing where, yes, while Koishikawa is attacking Shai, not wanting to, but is just being forced to attack Shai, Eventually, you kind of see what is so dark and clouded inside of her heart. The darkness in her is her hatred for somebody. Well, at first, Shai believes it's to her because she wasn't able to save her, but in fact, it's just to herself. She hates herself because she has essentially survivor's remorse. When she was very young, her house was burning down. Her parents threw her out of a window to save her, but then they got caught up in the flames and died. And now you have this situation where Shai is trying to stop her, and she's getting injured as well. So it's making her hate herself so much. But additionally, she also lashes out at Shai in the idea that Shai is one of those people that will save other people. And it sort of parallels Shai's history as well, where we see a little brief flashback of Shai where she's struggling with the idea that people will go out of their way to help other people even though there's no self-benefit to it, that it only causes sadness. Whereas her grandfather kind of tried to instill upon her the idea that people can't live alone, and thus doing good to other people, doing kindness to other people is the only way that you will find true happiness. And if you find grief in that, just kind of pay it forward. Spreading happiness in the end is the best way to find that joy. This affects this darkness. She's able to remove this ring from Koi Ishikawa, and she's able to save her, which kind of leads to them notifying Unilord that, yes, we've discovered somebody that is trying to tap into this darkness within people's hearts and use it. So my thoughts on Shai so far. I'm extremely mixed on this show so far. I think Shai is way cute. I love her character. I love her character design. I love the outfit itself. I thought they were going to play more on the idea of Shai, yes, being shy, being in an outfit that she's in, which is, yes, kind of like a one piece, kind of revealing quite a bit. I figured that would be one of those things that they would play off of a little bit for a little bit of humor, but it does seem like where they're jumping in the story, Shai seems to have been a hero for a while. Like, this isn't her first day when this show first opens, so I'm guessing she got used to her outfit at some point. But no, it seems like it's more focused on the idea that she's just not good in public and the public eye itself. And yes, she's struggling with a little bit of self-confidence issues that kind of affects her in the idea that she wants to save everybody. But in the end, when struggles do come into play, there's a lot of triage that happens. Yes, it's like the whole statement where if this train's going down the track and there's one person on one track and there's three person over here, which way do you switch it? You can only save so many people. In some cases, you have to choose one or the other. If you have a burning building, you have to go to room A or room B, and the flyer's in the middle and it will spread equally. You're going to have to choose one. She sort of has that decision that she makes at some point when she's in this burning building, as she has this mother who's unconscious and this infant that's in her arms. Well, when it comes to shove, she chooses to reach out to save the infant because, she has to make that choice there. It sucks. But I do like that they're kind of not shying away. I hate that. They're not shying away from kind of hitting on that subject. Additionally, going in the second episode, we're hitting heavy on this concept of survivor's remorse, which is, yes, is the other aspect of that story. It's almost playing into it equally as the idea that, okay, now let's tell the other side of the story. What are those people that one of them survives while the other one doesn't? How do they feel about that? And that is that aspect of feeling grief for, why me? Why am I the one that survives and not them? Maybe they would still be alive today if I didn't exist because they went out of their way to save me. And yes, playing very well with Teru's own experiences in her past. This idea of people showing some sort of kindness. I'll be curious to see more of Teru's history and what that's all about. How does that play in? I'll be curious to see that origin point of Teru becoming a hero, which I'm surprised they didn't kind of open it up with, but there's a lot of kind of subjects that are already hitting on these first two episodes that I do like. I like this idea of not just being an overpowered main character, saving the day, but actually getting into, yes, the more uncomfortable side of it, which is the social appearance of superheroes. Again, even though I hate it to death, and I know it has to exist, and it's reality in itself, that stupid trope about society being stupid about heroes and saying that they deserve to be responsible for somebody getting hurt. How we should sue them. And it's like, please stop. Please stop. I accept that it has to exist, and it kind of grounds it in a little bit of reality because, yes, we can kind of see our society being stupid like that. It's just social media and the news gets stupid like that. So what better way of making something feel real than showing how stupid people are? All that stuff's kind of working very well. I think my only real issue that I have with the show so far is that it's not really doing anything different so far. Like, so far with these first two episodes, it's not really feeling different. Yes, I can't really think of any off the top of my head stories about a main character that's a female, that is a superhero, that is protecting mankind and deals with survivor's remorse and stuff like that. It's not as if I'm saying this is a common story. Yes, there's a lot of stories that have characters that have some sort of power, and then they, don't save everybody, and thus have issues basically being superpower shy. Like this idea that I'm afraid of using my power anymore. That's not a new concept. And yes, the idea of survivor's remorse not being a new concept. And I will admit that the whole resolve of the second episode felt a little bit weak. It's this idea that Shai just literally just hugs her and says, let it all out. And this girl just hears all this stuff. And then she's like, oh, break power. It didn't feel like it had a sting with the whole resolve of that whole situation. It just really kind of turns into, Shai, did you know hugging her would break it? No, I didn't. It just kind of worked out. It feels like, what are we doing here? It was a good story. I like what Koi Ishikawa is kind of going through. Not that I like it. It's just, it's tragic. I like that how it kind of plays it out, but at the same time, it just didn't feel like anything kind of happened there. So while everything sort of is playing out well, I'm not being surprised by what it's doing so far. It feels unique, but at the same time, it's not that interesting. So I'm really hoping that going forward, one, we can possibly get into some conflicts that have like some really creative elements to it and its resolve, or possibly the greater story itself can get into something interesting. I'm really hoping that the overall story is more interesting than just tapping into the darkness of people's hearts, because yes, that's pretty much like a Sailor Moon story here. We're going way back with the whole villains tapping into the darkness of people's hearts. Please don't be that dumb. Like, let's put a lot more thought into the story than just there's an evil organization tapping into people's darknesses. Peppa Show was a lot of fun. I think she's just, I don't usually favor I like to get drunk all the time characters, but she's a big sis. I like, it's like you have this negative to it, but at the same time you have the positive that she's the big sis type character. But I loved her whole analogy about the drinking over here and the drink over here and how it technically applies to Shai. It's just she didn't know how to really explain it. It was cute. I'm looking forward to seeing the Twin Tail lady in the OP. I kind of like some of the Twin Tail ladies, so I'll be curious to see what she does. And yes, I did notice that in Vilio's the mascot character for Shai is technically Rudius's older self, Seiyu. So that's a little bit you can't get it out of your head sometimes. It's a little bit disturbing in a sense. I will also have to admit that while the first episode has some pretty good animation in it and whatnot, I feel like the second episode kind of put a little bit of fear in me as well, because the whole fight between Koi Ishikawa and Shai wasn't that creative. It was literally mostly just Koi Ishikawa swipes hand, and then Shai slides backwards. And then Koi Ishikawa swipes hand, and then Shai kind of slides backward. The first episode was a lot better, but I do have a little bit of a uneasiness about the quality of the show that's going to be going forward. I think the character designs are fantastic and a lot of the shots are great, but at the same time, I think the action itself, if the second episode's any indication, the first episode was just a come watch this show or go buy the manga. The rest of it's going to be low budget. I will say, and I will always say, I don't like this director. I think overall this director does well, but I don't like this director. Masaomi Ando is obsessed with panel overlays. I don't get why he thinks this is so creative, and I hate that he has to do it with everything he does. He did it with Hakume Tomikochi, he did it with Scum's Wish, I think he even did it with Astro Lost in Space. This director is obsessed with this idea of, here's a shot, and then we overlay a single, like, portrait shot over it. I really hate it. And not that it ruins the show, don't get me wrong, I'm not that butthurt about it, but it's like, this guy, it's like one of those things where everybody's like, yeah, it's creative because it's doing this. And it's like, but he does it every show he does. At some point, it's no longer creative. It's just reusing it. And he's obsessed with doing it. And I completely forgot that he was directing this until I was watching the first episode. And then they had that whole shot where she was helping the people that were hanging off of the roller coaster. And suddenly there was a portrait shot overlaid. And I'm like, oh, this is the show that has the Scum's Wish director, doesn't it? At least they're keeping the art style the similar, because I think with Scum's Wish, they kind of did a little bit more of the manga style, but if I remember correctly, I could be wrong. But I just, like get a new concept and just reusing the same thing you creatively did. But anyways, in the end, I'm enjoying the show. I'm looking forward to more. It's really hard not to like a show like this where you have somebody that has such a lack of self-confidence. And seeing Shai really push herself to try to help people, like the whole fire in the building thing, her just being just struggling about this. and hearing that boy talk out and how she just rushes out there, even without her abilities, and tries to save somebody. It's just so easy to get you riled up and want to just kind of root for Shai to do well. And I think that's where a lot of my appeal is going to be in this series. There's some great visual shots. I mean, the whole kind of corruption happened in Koishikawa looked really cool. Again, I hope that the animation gets kicked back up. But through and through, I'm enjoying it. Like I said, it's pretty much My Hero Academia, but without Deku that I don't really like, but instead a cute girl that you want to root for. But we'll see where it goes from here now that pretty much everybody seemingly is going to find out who the real Shai is. I'm wondering when that's going to blow up in her face because she keeps revealing to people who she is. But I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm looking forward to more. But that's my thoughts on the first episode of Shai. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what you think of the series. If you're going to be checking it out. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. I'm pretty much doing first impressions for all the shows this season. So if you want to get an idea if a show is interesting or not to you, since there's like 70-something shows and you don't want to go through all of them, you can get an idea if it's something you should check out or not. But I appreciate you guys' support. If you like this content and you want to support more, I have Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate what it does, and y'all take care.